let me jump right into the teaching. We'll get going right off the bat here because I want to talk. I'm pumped and excited about the June tips to share with beekeepers. What are you supposed to be doing in the month of June? I know right off the bat, some of you are watching from parts of the world where your climate is entirely upside down or different than ours. Or you may be watching, really far north where June is different for you, or really far south. So you're just going to have to, make the transition yourself and just consider wherever you are, this pertains to about the last maybe 3 weeks of spring. Okay. We're going to have summer that starts in 3 weeks. So however you need to make that calculation and make it work for you. So, so for the month of June, it is interesting because this is a month where everything for us, for like me here in Illinois, everything should be running smoothly by now. Now, that's not to say that it is. In beekeeping, nothing ever runs smoothly. And if something does run smooth, that means, anything could happen at any moment, right? We're always in a state of wondering, what do we do next? But in the month of June, that's usually when the swarm season is over. And that's quite it can be a messy time, swarm season, because you overwintered a colony, you felt good about it, and all at once they swarm, and now you're wondering, are they going to make a queen correctly in a timely fashion? Is a queen going to get mated? Did I catch the swarm? What do I do with the swarm? Where do I move it and all that? So we've been doing that for, the last at least 3 or 4 weeks here in Illinois, dealing with swarms. But essentially right now, for most people, we're going to reach a point where swarm season ends. Bees like to reproduce and make another colony in spring. And so as spring wears on, the bees stop doing that. They stop swarming. But I want to give you a little warning. A colony can swarm anytime. And what we've seen is that colonies do often swarm again in the fall, especially when there's a nectar flow in the fall. They can swarm again. And so be aware of that. So right now in the month of June, one of the things I want you to be concerned about is swarm recovery. What does swarm recovery mean? Excuse me. It means that after a colony swarms, half of their colony left, right? Half of your colony left. And the other half has to raise a queen back home. And they raise a lot of queens known as swarm cells, swarm queens. And all of these queens have to fight it out until there's only one left. That one has to go on a very dangerous adventure and try to mate with drones some mile or two away from her hive and dodge all the dragonflies, not be eaten by birds, and make it back. So it's kind of risky. It's really risky for a queen to go mating. So what I want you to be aware of is that we need to be monitoring swarm recovery. I don't hear people mention that a lot. Swarm recovery means, okay, is the colony going to be able to raise their own queen? Is that queen going to be a good laying queen? Was she mated sufficiently? And is she a good layer? Is she laying a good brood pattern? So it's not just, do I have a queen, but is the queen going to be okay? Are her genetics going to still be the kind of genetics we're looking for? Calm in nature, good honey producer, maybe a little bit of VSH, Varroa sensitive hygienic behavior, mite control, all that. So we have to kind of watch for queen issues, because if they swarm and they raise a queen, but she isn't well mated or something happens where they don't like her after a little bit, then they're going to supersede her. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And that prolongs the hive's building up. So this post-swarm buildup is something we need to watch carefully. Will my colony really build up well after this swarm? Most of the time they really do. This new queen, The virgin queen will get mated. She'll fly back after they swarmed, and she'll take over, and she'll do a great job raising a lot of brood, and the hive will do really well. You'll have a fresh new queen and all that. So even the colony that maybe swarmed and you caught the swarm, now you got to monitor that swarm, right? Same way. You got to, obviously, that swarm had your old queen in it. Will they replace her? Normally they do. A new swarm will swarm with the old queen, but I've noticed it's not uncommon for them to want to replace that old queen as soon as they set up house. She lays a little bit of eggs in there. It's not uncommon for them to supersede her and start with the new queen as well. So watch all of that. You have to kind of keep your eyes open, just be aware that there's a lot of things that you need to make sure is going to work now that swarm season is over. And as I mentioned, the supersedure issue is one that really does perplex beekeepers. Sometimes they just don't know what it means and why it happens. And it's not uncommon at all to see supersedure cells at the same time. Sometimes you see swarm cells because there's kind of a tug of war in the hive. Maybe they want to replace a queen, maybe they want to swarm, and you might see both. Typically, these supersedure queen cells are fewer in number than swarm cells, and they're located on the upper half of the frames, of the brood frame, like this one in the picture here. Now, this queen cell is a supersedure cell, and bees are raising a queen to replace their queen for whatever reason. It can be that she's failing to lay well. It could be they detected that she's, something's wrong with her. Maybe she's got some type of health issue, a deformity of something, and they're risking her anymore, keeping her. So they decided to replace her. So you might see this during a heavy honey flow. I think I mentioned that last week. I talked about that somewhere recently, that if you have a very heavy nectar flow, you might find that your colony may kill their queen and make room for the honey and have a temporary pause of brood production, a forced colony pause of brood production. So you got to be aware of that. Be watching for supersedure swarm cells, and don't panic. I'll talk more about making what to do if you see one, what the course of action would be. Also, your queen may die. It's not uncommon for queens that come in new packages to die pretty quickly within a month or two. I mean, I'm not saying it's real common. I'm just saying it's not that uncommon. And the reason that is because a lot of queens that are raised for packages are raised very early in the year, and those queens sometimes don't get mated as well as they should. And as a result, they run out of stored sperm in their spermatheca. They run out of gas. They can't lay eggs anymore. And the hive begins to notice that, and they begin to replace her. So don't panic if you see that your queen is being superseded in the month of June. It's a very common month to see something like that based on a failing queen or a honey flow. So monitor all of these things very carefully, and hopefully tonight's teaching will help you not panic. I know several of you have been, I made a video last week, and I answered a question where somebody said, how do I get over the anxiety of beekeeping? And so I don't want you to have a lot of anxiety. I want to comfort you and encourage you. Another thing we're going to be doing in the month of June, if you haven't done this already, I know I have, is I'm putting a lot of honey supers on our black locust trees, and clover is just popping up, white Dutch clover, lawn clover popping up everywhere. In fact, it's almost time to cut the first bloom of the Dutch clover so that it can bloom again. So, put your honey supers on. It's important. But remember, if you're going to put honey supers on, we need to stop feeding. You don't want to feed your bees when you have your honey supers on. Some of you are going, wait, David, I'm still, my bees need to draw out foundation. I need to feed them. But you're going to have to make a decision, okay? If there's a strong honey flow, you probably don't need to feed your bees anymore. Let them use the nectar they're bringing in to draw out that comb, okay? It's okay. You can stop feeding, let them draw the rest of that comb out. put a honey super on. You can do that. But if you want to keep feeding them and you don't want to put a honey super on, that's fine too. It's a neat thing about beekeeping. There's so many different ways to do it. That's why when you ask one question of 10 beekeepers, you get 11 different answers because there's 10 different ways to do something right. Okay. A lot of people are mad about that. A lot of people get upset. I don't like beekeeping because you ask one guy one thing, get a different answer. Well, it's because there's a lot of right ways to do it. It's not a bad thing, right? A lot of right ways to do this. Okay, well, here's a tough one, though. Get ready to leave a comment, okay? So when you add honey supers above the brood nest area, the thing is, you can... If you have more than one, you have to make a decision. Do you bottom super or do you top super? Maybe a new term for some of you. Fine, it's cool to learn things tonight. So what that means is, as you can see in the picture here, let's take the hive off to the left there. It's got 2 deeps and 2 honey supers above a queen excluder with a wooden frame queen excluder I can see there. So these 2 supers on top, if you were to add a third one, do you add the third one? Do you lift those 2 up that are on there now and slip the new one between that first super and the deep brood area? Or do you just put the new super right on top of the entire hive, on top of the other 2 supers? So listen up closely. I want you to understand this. So it really doesn't matter a ton, especially during a nectar flow, okay? It doesn't matter a ton. So there's a lot of different philosophies about this, and it's all about your skill set. It's all about your kind of your understanding of what you want out of your bees, how new you are to all of this. And so the safest, I'll start with the safest way. You want to call it that. The safest or easiest way to do it is to put a queen excluder above your deeps, where your brood nest area, and just keep stacking your supers on top of each other. That's the simplest, easiest way to do it. How will the bees respond to that? They'll be fine. Now you're going to hear people say, oh no, they won't. You got a bottom super. And the club all has a bottom super license, and they'll take out a ruler and slap you on the hand if you don't bottom super. I get it. There's some, some people, some clubs, I get messages all the time on YouTube comments. Some of you say your club is very judgmental and critical. You got to do it their way or the highway. Well, okay, I understand. Well, maybe you need to find a different club if they're not going to give you any freedom to make a choice. All right. But look, it doesn't really matter, but that's the easiest way. Let me tell you how I like to do it and why I like to do it this way, but I don't do it every time this way. So I'm flexible, right? But what works best for me in most scenarios is I don't use a queen excluder because sometimes it reduces the volume of bees and the speed of the worker bees passing through the queen excluder. So it slows down my honey super progress. So what I like to do is put a honey super above my deep, and I let them start drawing them out if I need to. And then they start putting the nectar in there. Now I'll check in a few days. If the queen is up there, she loves to lay in new comb. I will pick her up and put her back down usually I'll let her walk in the front of the bottom board. And so that way they'll have time to put more nectar up in my first honey super. And if the queen gets back up there and she sees that the cells are wet with nectar, she can't lay in there because it has to be dried and polished and sterilized for her to lay in a honey super. So I play a little game with my bees that way. All the bees in the top of the box are on David's side. They're on my side. They want to put honey up there. But the queen, she wants to lay brood up there. So all I have to do is work in connection with the bees up there, and by taking the queen out, moving her down. Okay, so once I have all that going really good for me, and I've got that first honey super above the deep, no queen excluder, they're putting honey up there, that becomes my queen excluder. The queen she doesn't want to go up there anymore because it's full of honey. She stays in the brood nest area. I don't have a queen excluder. Now I top super all the way through. I just keep throwing, because the honey super right above the brood nest stays there. If I bottom super, either drawn or undrawn, it will tempt the queen to lay right above the brood nest, because she will see that as part of the brood nest. So once I get my honey super above the brood nest filled with nectar or honey, then that becomes my queen excluder. That works really good for me 80% of the time. 20% of the time, I've got to go up there and still get the queen out of there or something, but it works really good. And it allows all my worker bees, all the foragers, and all the house bees to bring nectar up there without having to go through a queen excluder. So that's what we talk about with bottom supering or top supering. It means when you add your second honey super, do you put it beneath the one that's on there, which is bottom supering? Do you put it on the top, which is top supering? Again, you think about it. It's your philosophy, your choice. It's going to turn out about the same in a nectar flow. Well, how many supers should you put on at a time? I think it's good to follow the 5-7 rule. 5 to 7 frames are drawn out in any given box at a next box above them. That includes brood nest area or it includes honey supers. I don't like the idea of just going out there willy-nilly and putting in 6 empty honey supers in the spring and hope they fill them up. That's too much space. Too many pests today will make a haven out of all that empty space as unprotected by bees. But remember, one of the things that's going to help you a lot is please add wax. Add wax to all your plastic foundation. It'll get a better pull and it will pull out faster. So please do that. Well, then that brings us to some of you are already harvesting honey in the month of June. Probably some of you further south, so you probably already got supers that are capped over. So when do you harvest? Do you harvest them in June as soon as they get capped over? Do you wait until they're all capped over and do it once in September maybe and be done with it? But I like to do this. I like to go out there. If I see a honey super where 90% of my frames are capped over, the honey supers, I like to harvest them. And what I like to do is bring it into the harvest room, extract it, and then I like to take my wet super right back out to the hive and put it back on the same hive, especially in the month of June, because I've got 2 more months of nectar. And so I'm going to give them a wet super that needs to be filled back up. And boy, will they fill it fast. They start to clean it out. You know, it's wet from extraction of honey, some little residual, I can't say that word. There's a little bit of honey left. And so they have to clean that up. And meanwhile, they're packing more in there. So you can always put it back on there. I first started beekeeping in the state of Ohio, just north of Columbus. And I remember that first year, I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew enough to take a honey super off when it was capped over, extract it, put it back on. And I made only with 1 super. I had 1 hive, 1 super. Oh my gosh, I made so much honey that by putting it back on and let them fill it up again. Well, the one thing that you have to keep in mind when you're harvesting honey, whether it's going to be in June or July, August, September, obviously is, do you want to take all the honey? Do you want to leave them some for winter? So when you start harvesting your honey, always keep in mind, you've got to kind of say to yourself, will I be able to provide, will they be able to provide enough to get them through the winter? Can they store enough? So if you take all their honey all year long and counting on a fall crop that doesn't happen to put food back on them for winter, you might really wind up with your bees dying in the winter. So consider that about how much do you take off. I like to leave a honey super on just for my bees, and I only harvest anything additional to 1 honey super that's on there. And then finally, we're going to talk about June mite control. June is a big month to really get things squared away with mite management, if you haven't already done that, because mites are growing rapidly as your generations of bees are growing. So this is a big deal. I want you to test for mites with an alcohol wash. Test 300 bees. You want it to be less than 3 mites per 100 bees. But and then if you test and you find that you do have more mites than you should, then you need to decide what kind of treatment to use. The treatment that you use is going to be based on the temperature of your region in the month of June. Formic Pro, you can't get above, what is it, 85 or 89 degrees Fahrenheit. You gotta, it can't be real hot. You gotta monitor the temperature and read the label. The label's the law on all of your treatments. So make sure you follow the protocol, the label, and the temperature. Big thing too with treating for mites, can your treatment be used with your honey supers on? Because we have honey supers on in June. So that may change what you select as a treatment. Things like Formic Pro, Salic acid, they can be used with honey supers on. So you're going to be making decisions like that, rather than some of the other treatments that require you to take off your honey supers. Okay. And if some of those treatments also, they make you keep the honey supers off for 40 plus almost 50 days, which means you'll lose out on your honey flow. So see, that's how you make decisions on what treatments to use. Temperature, honey supers on. And then once you do treat, if you need to, then you need to retest to see if your treatments worked to keep your mites under control. I really strongly suggest that we all test for mites every 30 days. Keep track if they're growing or getting worse, or you're keeping them under control. And even with the supers off, don't put supers on and say, well, I'm going to keep supers on for 3 months. I'll check mites in 3 months. They can do too much damage in the amount of time. And then finally, I want to talk about, is the month of June too late, or is it still okay to make splits or to even start beekeeping with a package? Believe it or not, people still sell packages and nukes way into the month of June. Is this okay? Again, this is going to depend on how much of your floral source is left. Now, here in Illinois, I can have a strong floral source deep into August. By the middle of August, my clover will start to dry up. So you can see I've got a lot of room, June, July, August, to get something like a split or even a package started or a nuke started. But you may not have that. You've got to be kind of like a botanist in your own area and decide, is there enough resources out there for my bees to build up good before winter? Now, this determines whether you're using drawn comb or whether you're using undrawn comb. Obviously, if you're an experienced beekeeper, you got drawn comb, it's going to help you if you do start a split, a swarm, or a package in the month of June, because that drawn foundation will give them something to go to work on right away. If you're starting with undrawn foundation, going to be a little slower. And then it's going to be about your skill set. A real experienced beekeeper, I think, could start a hive in July and get it ready for winter, because they're going to feed, monitor, all that stuff. But a new beekeeper that doesn't know how to advance a colony and stay on top of it, it may not be as easy. And so, yeah, I think it depends on your skill set. If you can start a colony in the month of June, let's say the latter part of spring, it's doable. Obviously, as long as they're swarming, they think they can do it. But when swarm season ends, that means the bees don't like, they're getting too close to winter to keep splitting themselves naturally, and we should too. So you got to also consider, what is your length of winter? My length of winter, it can start as early as October, and it can go all the way through to the month of May. In other words, it can snow in October here in Illinois all the way through, and we can get snow even as late as the month of May. So that's a long winter. Now, if you live further south, you have like 2.5 days of winter. I envy you. I'm jealous. And if you live further north than me, you have like 11.5 months of winter. So it all depends, right? But the length of your winter is going to really determine what you want to do to start a hive or kind of spread out your hives in the month of June. Back to my main point, June is when we need to go into level flight. We need to be at cruising altitude. This is the time when we really need to stop doing radical things like starting beekeeping or starting hives, and we need to settle down, get our queen. A term that we use is get our hives queen right. That means they have a queen and she's laying good they are queen right. So that's the time everything needs to start working for us really well. Okay. Wow. All right. That's my best I can do for June tips for you guys. A lot going on in the month of June. We want to make sure that everything goes well. I want to say thank you for all of you, like Dan here. I noticed many of you were making donations to the live stream while I was teaching. Appreciate that very much, all of you. The live stream does cost a little bit of a penny to publish and get it out there. Our internet is outrageous because we live out in the country. So your donations are very much appreciated, and it allows us to have giveaways, which we're going to have in a little bit. And it allows us also to have special guests from time to time and pay them when they speak for us. So, yeah. Hey, Debbie, thank you for your donation for your super sticker today as well. All right, let me take time to go into questions and answers. Oh, boy, I know a lot of you have questions. Well, let's do it. Thanks for encouraging critical thinking. Well, thanks, Dan. You've mentioned bees of winter physiology many times. Do you have a course specific to that topic? I've searched, but no course that I can find. Not really, Dan. Knowing kind of like how bees of winter physiology work actually fits into all of my courses. In other words, my winter course, I talk heavily about vitellogenesis that's found in winter bees of physiology. That I don't know if you can make enough of a course just to talk about winter physiology, but I do talk about it in all my other online courses. Yeah, very important. Bees of winter physiology live 4 to 8 months in the winter. Hey, Larry, how are you doing? I believe Larry is a new BTM6 member. Moving a swarm, I trapped into the hive box this weekend. All right. Should I feed or let them continue their foraging? It's an 8-frame box. 6 frames are drawn with 1 with resources. Larry, it's up to you. You sound like you have enough resources in your area. You wouldn't have to feed them. But if you want a little bit of insurance in case you hit a little, rough spot in the weather and it rains for a week, it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit of food on there right now. Either way, it's going to be fine. Yeah. Hey, William. I have no idea what that means. Bebop and Rocksteady of the Small Hive Beetle clan have given me a hard time at some of my sites, Southeast South Carolina. Give us your best 3 ways to whip up on the Beetle clan. Oh, okay, gotcha now. Very creative way of saying, what should I do about my small hive beetle? Stay ahead of small hive beetle. To me, it is much easier to control the Varroa destructor than it is small hive beetle. Small hive beetle is some of you may not have never seen one, but they're smaller. They're bigger than a Varroa mite, but they're still small, about the size of a ladybug, kind of. For example, a beehive cell is about 5 millimeters, and that's about the size of a small hive beetle. And they're black, dark brown in nature, solid 1 color, and they do havoc in a beehive. Terrible. They came into the country, I think, around 1989. And they actually lay eggs everywhere, and the larvae of small hive beetle will just drill down through your comb. The larvae in the wandering stage will eat up everything like brood, honey, nectar, and when they defecate, they slime or ferment everything behind them, and it actually will ruin a whole honey super. It will leak out of your hive. The best way to control them is stay on top of them. Beetle traps. Oil traps between frames is my go-to method. I've tried all the other methods, all the Swiffer pads. I've tried all the traps, blah, blah, blah. I find the oil traps really work efficiently for me. Just to get some, put a little 1/4 inch of vegetable oil in the bottom of those traps, put 2 or 3 between the frames, let them fall in there. They'll go in those traps. The bees will run them into those traps. That works really well for me. Hey, Deborah, with new honey frames, is there any other trick of encouraging them to draw them out besides heavy waxing? Not really. I do promote spraying a little sugar water on them, 1-to-1 sugar water. Maybe they eat that sugar and helps them metabolize wax and build more wax. But I think best thing we can do is get your frames drawn out in the months of May and June during a heavy nectar flow when they have the ability to make more wax. So try to stay ahead of it. Heavily wax your frames. Hey, Ross, thanks for the donation tonight. State inspector and I saw a queen fly in a week ago today, queenless. Obviously, don't know if she was fully mated or not. Full inspection done today and no eggs. Wait a few more days. A week ago. Yeah, you better, because the weather and all could have prevented her from actually making it to the drone congregation area. Maybe she went out looking, didn't find it. So let's wait another 10 days. See what happens, Ross. Yeah. Yeah, the queen getting mated is kind of risky for sure. Banana peel, Northeast Missouri. Is there an insulated cover that you recommend? Not really. I mean, there are a lot of insulated top covers now. The plastic ones that I use, I think they provide a little bit of an insulation too. I don't think they're insulated. They might be, but I don't think so. But you're wanting to insulate for winter, I guess, maybe. Summer wouldn't be a bad idea either, but I usually try to insulate my top with my Winter Be Kind candy boards that have insulation in them. That's what I use in the wintertime. Yep. Hey, Michael, 2 single deep colonies. Let's see, 2 single deep colonies. Oh, I see, single deeps. Both flourishing with numerous swarm cells. Should I split these hives or just add a second deep box? Second deep should be completely drawn already. Wow, yeah, if you're running single deeps and you've got swarm cells, they're going to swarm. You need to address the swarm cells. So you need to split them. Make sure the queen is in there, though, first. Your original queen needs to be present before you knock down swarm cells or split. I would definitely, I don't know where you live. So if I lived in Illinois, I would turn those into 2 deeps on each one of those. But I'm still going to have to control the swarms. If I live further south in the south of the U.S., I can get by with a single deep, like, southern Mississippi on to Florida. Single deeps would be fine. Thank you, El, for your super sticker donation tonight. Appreciate it, guys. Yeah. Thank you for loving the cause. Hey, Hank, how does a backyard beekeeper stay small and not outgrow their space with no real outlet to sell nukes or splits? Hank, you just have to let them go to the trees. Let those swarms fly away, If you don't threaten the community with these swarm cells, I don't like to see beekeepers being careless with swarms in an urban area. But if you live out in the country and they're going to go off to the trees and all, you just got to let them go, let them swarm, right? That's about all you can do if you don't have an outlet. But I guarantee you there's a lot of people that do want those bees that you have. Have you tried all the Facebook, Craigslist, all that stuff, farm store brochures? Hi, Marianne Livingston. I heard a rumor that if I scrape off a few brood cells, the colony will make a queen cell in its place. True or false? False if they have a queen. True if they don't have a queen. That is a practice. It's an old time practice. A beekeeper actually of long ago used that method to make queens. I would say your question really is, will they do it with a queen right hive? Marianne, hey, experiment, please. Go out there, scrape off a few brood cells in a queen right hive and go back in 10 days, mark the frame, the location, and go back in 10 days, bring us back a report and let us know what they did. See if they raised one or not. Make sure they're queen right. Hey, thank you, Ryan. Good to talk to you this week. Thank you for your donation. Steve, if a colony is superseding a queen for bad genetics or a laying pattern, is there any chance the new queen would do better, or should you consider replacing her as soon as possible? There's a chance she'll do better because, she's going to be mating with drones that are from different lineage than what was originally in the hive. So you'll get a mix of genetics there. But if you want to go all out different because you didn't like her genetics at all, I would replace her. For example, Steve, if I had a very aggressive queen that was, or the colony was real aggressive, I wouldn't take her offspring as a viable next queen. I would want to buy a queen somewhere else that's both the mom and dad didn't come out of that aggressive hive. Okay. Yeah. So you might consider it that way. Hey, Carla, Grape Creek, Illinois. We love the videos and live streaming. I'm using a green board for the first time. I have 2 deeps on. Should I go in the top or bottom? Carla, I believe putting that green drone comb to trap mites is best used in the top box. And that's because it's easier for you to get to. If you put it in the bottom deep, you got to take the top deep off and hurt your back. So put it in the top deep. It'll be fine. Yeah, that's a good mite control method. Just came in from an inspection. Oh, man, that's a good feeling in it. Probably brought a few bees into the house. They're flying by the lights. Found wonky comb on my second brood box. I did wax the frames before putting them in the box. Why do you take it off? Would you take it off if a lot of larvae are in them? I'll tell you, that is really a tough decision. I don't like removing any kind of wonky comb that has brood in it because that's a lot of energy and futureness of the hive. I'm going to try to leave it in there and baby it. It's a mess. You can't find your queen if she's under it. But yeah, that's kind of I like not to have that because it's easier to do inspections. Hey, Charlie, thanks for your donation tonight. We just see so much wonky comb all the time. I haven't noticed it on the acorn frames. This is not a paid promotion, but on my acorn double coated frames, I don't see wonky comb yet. What are the major bee predators? Gary, there are several bee predators. Obviously, for the backyard beekeeper, it's going to be, and they're not heavy predators. Obviously, they're going to be things like birds. There could be skunks that would get into your hive. There are going to probably in the fall, there can be mice that would get into your hive. Obviously, if you're in bear country, there are going to be bears that want to get into your hive, things like that. And then there are some other insects. You'll get the occasional wasps, yellow jackets, and all the insects like that. Those are kind of the predators for bees. I don't have a lot of predators here where I live. I have some skunks that I need to introduce to lead, but I don't see them bothering my hives yet anyway. Thank you, Austin, for your super sticker tonight. Appreciate seeing a lot of you new tonight to the live stream. Welcome to the live stream if you're brand new tonight. Good to have you. There we go. Hey, Rob, have you seen a hive that the smoker just seems to make them mad? I caught a swarm and they're fine until I smoked them. No, I have not seen that. I've heard of it before. What I recommend is that you change your smoker fuel. Try something different. If you're using pine needles, use burlap. If you're using burlap, use pine needles. Let's try a different source and see if that will help. Doug, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys supporting the live stream. Brian, thank you. I have 3 colonies using the Burns feeder system with sugar water. One of the hives have very large black ants. Some are as long as the bees. Wow. Should I be concerned? And if so, what can I do? There's always ants love sugar, and ants, those big black ants, sugar ants, carpenter ants, they love sugar. That's what they live on. And so, yeah, you're going to have to make a decision on how do you keep ants away from those feeders. A lot of times you got to put your hive into the feed of the hive into some pans of water or something so the ants can't cross that moat. You can put some cinnamon around the hive, break up the pheromone pattern of the ants. But I understand what you're saying. I see ants and they don't really ever get into the hive, but they're just trying to sneak in there, get some free sugar water. Yeah. When putting on a honey super with undrawn frames, does it make sense to feed 1-to-1 until they really start drawing out the comb? Absolutely it does. Unless you're in a heavy nectar flow, they'll probably do okay. If it's a heavily coated wax frame, they're going to pull it out really fast. Last year, I made a video where I took acorn super frames and I videotaped it. They pulled out all 10 undrawn frames in 5 to 7 days. That was amazing. Thanks, Stan. Hey, I've got a giveaway coming up after I talk to JR here. Can you have an entrance at the top near supers for the foragers plus the main hive entrance, or will this make robbing? You know, that's something that Reverend Langstroth experimented with back in the day, and he didn't like it. I've experimented with it, and I didn't like it either. It can allow bees to get up there and rob in the late summer and fall. They have robbing's bad when they have to go through the bottom entrance through the whole brood area to get to the honey. But when they have direct access to it, it's a little dangerous. Yeah. So let me talk about a giveaway coming up next week. We're going to give away this beautiful copper color. I don't think it's real copper, but it's copper color, maybe aluminum, I think. And look at that. It's a top cover. It's not the hive. We're going to give this away next week on our live stream. Spread the word. It's beautiful. You'll love it. If you have a garden hive and if you got a really cool hive that you want to dress up a little bit, we're going to give that away next week. And that's really a cool looking top. It's made by King Bee. Stevie King is a good friend of mine in Rockville, Indiana, over by Turkey Run. He has a bee business over there, and Stevie makes a lot of our products. He makes our winter bee kinds over there. He makes our Burns feeder board. You can buy those things from him over there, but he made that. He makes those. If you don't win that next week, you can go over there if you're in the area and buy those from Stevie. I really appreciate working with Stevie over the past couple of years. All right, let's go ahead and give a giveaway. We'll come back to Ben in just a moment. I want to give away our ultimate beekeeping class. If you've never heard about my online beekeeping courses, I have an ultimate online course, and it consists of 7 classes all in one bundle. I think it's $270, $290. I can't remember the price of it, but we're going to give one away to the live stream tonight. So if you haven't taken my ultimate beekeeping course, it's going to help you a lot. Be talking about bees of winter physiology in there. Be talking about, I've got a spring course, talks about, how to get your honey supers ready for spring, how to overwinter your bees, an advanced course on pests and diseases. Thank you for your donation. Real deal around town. And it's Mite Control course. It's all of them are bundled together for 7 ultimate class online. And you can take it from the comfort of your home and watch it when you want. You can pause it, watch it later. These are not refurbished YouTube videos. No, I don't do that. These are classes that I sat down and made. And they're not just me talking, but they're field videos in the field as well. So these are designated classes and help you get started with a good foundation in beekeeping. So if you haven't taken my ultimate course, now's the chance. Somebody put a $ class, Richard. Go back and put #class. That'll help you out there. Yeah, that'll help you out a lot. #class. Thank you, Beekeeper MD, for your super sticker. And by the way, while we're letting you get your name in the hat, every few days after the live stream, I always do my best to answer your questions that you asked on the live stream that I didn't get a chance to answer. Last week, you swamped me with over 70 questions that I didn't get to. So this is a place, it appears, this is a place people come to get their questions answered, and I'm working hard to answer your beekeeping questions, okay? But the more of my classes you take, the less questions you'll have. And the neat thing about my classes, if it sounds like I'm promoting them, I am, because if you take my classes, or anybody's, but if you take my classes, then it starts to make sense. Rather than watching a pot shot video here and there, the classes bring it all together, and it's in an order, it's systematic. It helps you learn the foundations and even go deeper into beekeeping. So it's going to kind of bring it all together for you. Thank you, Jay Landers, for your donation tonight. All right, so if you want the ultimate class, you want a chance to win it tonight, #class, and you can win our ultimate beekeeping course. It'll be a big help for you guys. All right. All right, Robbie, ready to spin when you are. There we go. Hashtag class. Get your name in a hurry. All right. All right, Robbie, let's let her go. See who's going to win tonight. All right, names are flying by. Look at that. Oh, hey, Jay Landers. There you go. Congratulations, Jay. Be sure and email us within 24 hours at the email address scrolling across the bottom, beaksquadwinner@gmail.com. So, Jay, be sure and email us. We'll get that sent out to you. Congratulations. Can't say it. Congratulations. And by the way, hey, there's Leah Burns. Vera, my granddaughter, says, hey, Papa and Nana, happy almost June. Thank you. Hi, Vera. Vera Lynn's watching Papaw on television tonight. She loves to watch me on TV. By the way, you're called Beak Squad because my handle, YouTube makes us all have a handle, and I chose Beak, and you're the squad. There you go. We have a lot of merchandise, Beak Squad hats and shirts and all kind of tumblers to drink from. And we'll probably scroll something across the bottom here. But if you're interested in some of the merchandise, Beak Squad merchandise, you can always grab that up because a lot of you do enjoy that. So yeah, there it is on the bottom there. Many of you do have Beak Squad merchandise. You can see it behind me there on your shirts and hats and all. So that's good. Hey, Millie, thanks for your super sticker tonight. Appreciate it. Let's go into some more questions, okay? All right, there's Ben. Is it okay to put a new non-drawn out frame in between brood frames for queen to have more room to lay once drawn out? I'm doing that, Ben. I was going to go out there and film today, but the weather was rainy. But I'm doing that on a brand new package. I had good results doing it on, I think, one frame, and I got greedy last week, and I'm doing it on two. It's kind of like checkerboarding, isn't it? But yeah, I would give it a try. I think it's fine to do that if the temperatures are okay at night. Yep. Okay, Weebler, I'm seeing eggs being laid, not centered in the cells. Will the queen improve, or should I consider requeening? Now, if you're seeing it's actually the back of the cell, but we'll call it the bottom. If you're seeing eggs being laid that are off-centered, but there's still only one egg in there, I wouldn't be real concerned. I think it'll be okay. Check your brood pattern. Make sure the brood pattern looks good. Make sure they're developing into larvae. Capped over pupae looks healthy. If that's all going well, I wouldn't worry about it. If it's on the walls, I'm going to be concerned. Yeah. Hey, David, thanks for a donation tonight. One of our hives, newish package installed a month ago, has an active queen, but the cap brood is a ratio of about 3 to 1 drone to worker. Should I look for a new queen? Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. That's too many. You should have a whole frame of solid brood, worker brood. It shouldn't be that spotty with drone. No, I'd get a new queen for that one. When should I put on propolis traps? If you want to trap for propolis, I've found the best time to do it is after the honey flow. And put it on. I like to put them on the top of my hives, crack open a little bit, a little light up there, and that way they want to put that on there. But it works best for me immediately following a honey flow. Hey, Michael, thanks for your donation tonight. Appreciate it. Yep. Thank you, guys. Mary Ellen, I caught 3 swarms this spring and each stayed in the box for only one night. What can I do to keep in the box? Deep boxes with 8 frames. Here's the problem, Mary Ellen. You caught the bivouac, and that's the state that they're in before they finally decide to go to their final home that they've already pre-chosen before you caught them. So even though you caught them and put them in a box, they're still talking about that great house that they purchased and they want to move in. So it's kind of like risky to get them to stay in your box when they're determined to go to another place. But yeah, about the only thing you can try to do is entice them with some drawn frames, spray a little sugar water, maybe put a feeder on there to entice them to stay. It's tricky business to get a swarm to stay put. Sometimes you can take a frame of eggs from another hive and put in there. Then they feel like they have to stay and take care of the brood. You can try that. Yep. Atlas. David, what's a fair threshold for insulated versus ventilated? Is there a ratio of R value ceiling relative to this climate zone? I'm going to tell you personally, I think that we overthink that. I really do. Because it's the bees who regulate the heat or the coolness of the hive. It's the bees that regulate it. They're quite capable of doing it without our help. And so, yeah, I don't really know. I personally like to insulate the top, but I still like to ventilate the top. So I do both. But that's not going to save what we do with insulating our hives or wrapping or not wrapping and all that particular type of hive and all. What really saves the hive is the beekeeper having extreme knowledge and skill to keep a hive alive. And then if the beekeeper has that skill, they can do it in an insulated hive or a non-insulated hive. Hey, Mark, your live stream and videos are always very helpful and educational. Thank you for all you do. Well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Thank you for your donation. I do work hard. I have to admit, I exhaust myself for you guys, making videos and trying to produce content to help you guys out. Amanda, how do bees find sources? I have black locust trees in full bloom, but not seeing very many bees on them. The hives are 400 to 600 yards away as a bee flies. Well, that is alarming, isn't it? Well, the way that works is your hives are sending out scout bees every single hour to scour your area. When they find a hot spot with good nectar, they bring it back, do a waggle dance, and tell the rest of the foragers where to go. I suspect that they found another spot of black locust trees that they're going to that aren't the ones you're looking at. Okay. So once they got the word out that they're going to go to the ones that are way over there, that's where they're all going. And they're not really going to the ones you're looking at. That's what's going on there. Yep. All right. One more question. Then we're out of time. Hey, Corey, good to see you. Can you get a bee genetically tested to see what kind it is, asking about swarms and possibly making queens for them? Yes, you can do that. I mean, the universities do it. It's very expensive. And the ones that the people I've talked to where they've done these kind of experiments have found that the bees are a genetic mix of everything. That is like all of us, right? We have such a genetic mix. So you might not really be able to find one specific trait or genetic type that's stronger than the other. You'll have to test her out and see. Well, my friends, we have had fun for 59 minutes. Thank you for being on my live stream tonight. I'm David Burns. I just want to extend a great honor it is to have you here. And thank you. I'm so grateful that you joined me tonight. I want to thank Robbie and Jessica and Carrie for making it all work behind the scene today. Thanks so much, guys. And I will be making another video with all the questions you ask. I'll be putting your question up on the screen and answering it in the next few days. So be sure and be watching for that as well. But my goodness, we've had a big crowd tonight. I want to thank you. Tell your friends about this live stream. It's family friendly. This is a live stream with heart and passion for bees and an appreciation and a value of one another. And I just want to say, I think the most important thing about beekeeping is getting along with each other, loving each other, being kind, and helping each other out. Appreciate you being here. I'll see you in the next video.